The Conference of Speakers of States in Nigeria wants the National Assembly to include the bill that supports state policing in the ongoing review of the Constitution. This was part of the consensus reached by the state legislatures through a communique read at the end of a meeting held in Ibadan. Olaide reports.
Recently, the National Assembly transmitted a total of 44 constitution review bills to the 36 state houses of assembly for further legislative work. The 44 bills were passed by the Senate and House of Representatives on the 1st of March, and only the 44 bills were passed out of 68 considered in the amendment process.
We've been to the various states.
At the first quarter of the general meeting of the Conference of Speakers of State Legislatures, the prevailing security challenge was a major focus. The lawmakers frowned at the exclusion of state policing from the review of the 1999 Constitution by the National Assembly.
The conference acknowledged the receipt of the National Assembly's resolution on the ongoing review of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The conference, however, frowns at the exclusion of the state policing in the resolution of the National Assembly. The conference therefore directed its Committee on the Constitution Review to further liaise with the National Assembly with a view to ensuring state policing is reconsidered.
Earlier before the technical session, Governor Makinde of Oyo State pushed for a robust debate on resource control and state policing.
And so it is high time the two issues of resource control and state police are subjected to robust debates at the legislature. I believe that any assembly that puts those issues up for rigorous debate and gives Nigerians a fair deal on all counts will go down in history as the best assembly ever.
To some, the amendment should be total, that is, reviewing the whole Constitution, while to others, it should be taken piecemeal. Whatever the nature of the agitation, the purpose and aim of every constitutional amendment is virtually the same across the world.
You know, it's something you cannot take a unilateral decision over. You still have to go back, discuss with your colleagues, and even the people, and particularly the local government officials.
While commiserating with the families of the victims of the KADUNA train attack, the conference called on the federal government and security agencies to take measures to avert future occurrences. Olaide, TVC News, Ibadan.
Federal government has directed telecommunication companies in the country to bar all outgoing calls on unlinked lines from Monday, April the 4th, 2022. The government announced this directive in a statement jointly signed on Monday by the Director of Public Affairs at the Nigerian Communications Commission, Ikechukwu Adinde, and the Head of Corporate Communications at the National Identity Management Commission, Kayode Adegoke. According to the NCC, at least 72.8 million subscribers risk being disconnected from telecommunication services following the latest directive. Data from the Commission indicates that there are 197.8 million active telecom subscribers in Nigeria as of February 2022. Let's turn our attention to security matters. In Plateau State, about 10 persons have been confirmed dead and 19 others injured after gunmen invaded a cultural festival in Basa local government area of the state. Some eyewitnesses told our correspondent in a phone conversation that the gunmen stormed the community and attacked them while the locals were celebrating their Irigwe annual Zerechi festival. The Irigwe chiefdom of Basa Council area has suffered a series of attacks which have led to the deaths of many locals, with many properties destroyed in recent times. Despite all efforts by the state and federal government to end the attacks, the situation is yet to record any positive result. The spokesman of the Plateau State Police Command, Uba Gabriel, confirmed the attack, but says the command has mobilized armed officers to the place to restore normalcy. Now, in Delta State, the police command has rescued 13 kidnapped victims, killing one suspected kidnapper. Personnel of the command engaged suspected kidnappers who intercepted a 14-seater bus in Aniocha South local government area, kidnapped 13 of the passengers and took them into a nearby bush. A combined team of police operatives and vigilantes engaged the kidnappers in a gun duel where one of the suspects was killed while the other members of the gang escaped with bullet injuries. According to the State Police Command, all 13 kidnapped victims were rescued unhurt and one AK-47 rifle was recovered from the kidnappers. In Anambra State, 2 operatives of the Federal Road Safety Corps have been killed in an attack by unknown gunmen. The Assistant Corps Marshal of the FRC, Bisi Kazim, said in a statement that the patrol team had been conducting routine operations along Igbo-Oku-Uga route in the state when the armed men opened fire at them, killing 2 of the Corps personnel. One of the personnel escaped into the bush and the team leader rushed to the hospital after sustaining severe injuries from the attack. Corps Marshal Boboye Oyeyemi condemned the attack while condoling the families of the deceased staff. He also assured that the Corps is already working with the Nigerian police force and other relevant security agencies to ensure that the perpetrators are arrested. 1 week after the attack by terrorists on a KADUNA bound train, efforts are still ongoing to ensure the safety of all the passengers and repair of the damaged facilities. At the moment, the Nigerian Railway Corporation says 21 passengers are still missing following the 28th of March attack. Managing Director of the NRC, Fidet Okiria, disclosed that 2 more persons have returned home. That's in addition to the 170 persons initially reported. That brings the number of the safe passengers to 172. Mr. Okiria noted that attempts are being made to reach the remaining number of the passengers on the manifest. The Managing Director of the NRC also disclosed that 4 more coaches have been put back on the rail track, with 2 safely moved to Idu and Rigasa stations. According to him, 2 other coaches are still at the site due to the damaged tracks. This brings the total coaches put back on the rail to 7 out of the 11 coaches involved in the incident, with 5 successfully moved back to the station. He also noted that a total of 80 meters of the affected section of the railway has been fixed. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo is advocating collective efforts to solve the security challenges facing the country. Commenting on last week's attack on the Kaduna-bound train by terrorists, the former president expressed concern that Nigerians are no longer safe on the road, in the train and at the airport. He believes a joint effort of stakeholders will stem the tide of insecurity in the country.
And I believe that we need to sit down collectively, look at the situation. A situation where the train, you are not safe on the road. You are not safe in the train. You are not safe at the airport. Then what remains? And that is a very, very serious situation.
In a bid to bring succor to victims of insurgency, the Society for Alleviation of Rural Poverty and Integration has visited a camp for internally displaced persons in Zumba in Shiroro local government area of Niger State. The IDPs here fled their homes, as a result of the recent bomb blast in Galadima Kogo. Chenemi Bamei reports.
Kogo is a community in Shiroro local government area where terrorists planted bombs leading to the death of 6 men of the Security and Civil Defense Corps. The people have moved to this camp following these attacks. This intervention is to build community resilience. Abdullahi Adamu is an inhabitant of Galadima Kogo. His son and his younger brother were killed during one of these attacks by terrorists. He says this intervention has come at the right time and will help IDPs like him to keep body and soul together while looking forward to a day which they can return back home. But how close is that day?
The distribution of livelihood support, which are clothing materials and some household items that could help to alleviate some of this they are suffering. Some of them left their comfort zones, pursued by the bandits, and they ran away without thinking of clothing. And so we felt we should come and cover their nakedness.
So we thank God because of this organization that have come today to actually aid us, to help us, to alleviate our problems that we are encountering.
Coming on
Saturday morning, and over 50 motorbikes passed in front of my house. I heard different sounds of gunshots.
I will urge very strongly that both government and victims and humanitarian aid givers, that we find a way of going back to God, just so that in the place of prayer, in the place of, going back to see what is written in scripture concerning the day that we live in, and then what solutions God has proffered for the things that are happening.
The condition of these people is pathetic. A good number of them left their homes running away from the banditry attacks with just a single piece of clothing, what they were putting on. This makes the intervention of this NGO quite timely, bringing clothes to these people. Just behind this camp is the Shiroro hydroelectric power dam that supplies power to most part of Nigeria. The people say that if the government does not intervene in the issue of their security on time, they might be forced to give in to the demands of the bandits and enter into negotiations with them so that they can go back home and farm because the rains are here. Chanemi Bameyi, TVC News, Shiroro.
Now, in the face of all these security challenges, the Nigerian Army says the federal government is not relenting on its oars to improve the country's security apparatus towards ensuring that all Nigerians are safe, irrespective of where they find themselves. Ayodele reports.
This visit by the commander of 32 Artillery Brigade of Nigerian Army Akure, Brigadier-General Mukhtar Adamu, to the National Youth Service Corps NYC Permanent Orientation Camp in Ikare Akoko was part of his walking tour of Akoko area to study the security situation. The brigade commander was received at the camp by NYC officials in the state. Corps members mounted quarter guard to usher in the visitor to the camp. Shortly after, Brigadier-General Adamu gave a speech where he said the country expects selfless service from the corps members. He expressed commitment of the federal government towards providing adequate security for the citizens. Brigadier-General Adamu is of the view that corps members have critical roles to play in assisting security agents to give them protection.
We consider your security and well-being very paramount to the country. I just want you to remind you of the purpose of the NYC scheme, which is, among others, to inculcate the spirit of selfless service to the community you are deployed, and also to foster unity.
The brigade commander also gave words of advice and admonition to the corps members.
Collectively, we shall all put our hands together to make Nigeria great. Whether you've been in the military, in the police, in the civil sector, a businessman, or whatever, everybody is here to contribute his quota to the peace and development of Nigeria. So I encourage you, please, to pursue your chosen careers earnestly.
The visit will no doubt cement the relationship between the NYC and the Nigerian Army. Ayodele-Generaal, TVC News, Ikare Akoko.
Centers in Osun State, the government has granted 11 inmates of Ilesha and Ife custodial centers their freedom. Some of those released were convicted for offences ranging from stealing to unlawful damage, conspiracy, fraudulent acts, among others. There is more in this report.
The motive behind the visit by the Chief Judge and the State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice is to decongest the custodial centers in the state. In Ife, they were received by the Deputy Controller in charge of the facility, Ajibugun Olatunbosun, and some other officials. Ile-Ife Correctional Facility houses 339 inmates, though some of them are awaiting trial. After critical review of cases of some of the inmates, 7 of them were set free.
Going out there, they should turn a new leaf. They have told us that they have proved to be of good character. That is how we want to be seeing them in the society. And I told them that they should not see this freedom as something that will give them opportunity to go back to the offense that took them to the prison, to the correctional center. That if they do that, they will still have their way back to the correctional center again. That they should realize the fact that their freedom should not constitute danger to other persons' lives and freedom.
From there, the team proceeded to Inisha Custodial Center, where another 4 inmates got their freedom. The State Controller of Correctional Center is appreciative of the visits.
We serve as a morale booster to the staff generally, for us to, to increase our efforts in trying to counsel, to change, to reform this image.
It's a time for Ramadan. I want to appeal to you. Don't say because they are in custody, they still worship God too. They still have the same faith as you. Please, whatever it is you can give to them to enable their fasting, to enable them be able to perform that pillar of Islam.
Rafiu Hamid, TVC News, Ilesha, Osun State.
Now, journalists drawn from different media organizations received hands-on training on first aid application in Lagos. The exercise was organized by the International Committee of the Red Cross in collaboration with the Nigerian Red Cross. Senior correspondent Ivy Kanu reports.
Most times, journalists face crisis situations to get news. Some fall in the line of duty. The hostile environment in which they are exposed to have made it clear that they need to be armed with some first aid knowledge. Robin Weldo is a communication coordinator of International Committee of the Red Cross.
It's an important dialogue for us because it's an opportunity for us to discuss together, to listen to your questions.
For ICRC spokesperson, journalists are prone to having injuries while covering crises. Trainings included how to administer CPR and manage bleeding, fainting, epileptic and diabetic attacks, burns and scalds during emergency. Facilitators spoke on the importance of the training.
Anything happens, they will just become confused. So it's very, very important for journalists to have this knowledge of first aid, which D stand for danger, R stand for response, then A, airways, B, breathing, and C, compression.
The AED, automated external defibrillator that works with pad. The duty of that AED is to restart the heart, to shock the heart, and make the heart to start breathing again. Having it in every organization and companies is very important.
Daniel Edebo is the first aid and pre-hospital care field officer with ICRC. He stressed the need for media practitioners to have the knowledge of healthcare in danger.
Healthcare workers, healthcare personnel, healthcare facilities should be protected. These are what we are talking about when we talk about healthcare in danger.
There were simulations and journalists were encouraged to practice.
We were all involved, just to make sure that yes, we were able to understand what we've been taught and then putting it to practice.
It's a good one. When we go to the office, it's now time for us to pass this message to our colleagues too.
For victims when they drown is to press their stomach, trying to bring out water from the stomach. But the right thing to do is to give as much breath to the victims.
The organizers are of the opinion that to reduce reported cases of untimely deaths, more Nigerians should be equipped with first aid skills. Ivy Kano, TVC News, Lagos.
Now, the impact of the climate crisis on people and nature across the planet are real and will only intensify in the coming decades. That's according to a report by Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, while advocating increased actions to become more resilient to the changing climate. Our correspondent Esther Makwarela examines this issue even as the world continues to cut down carbon emissions in the face of rising global temperatures.
Intense heat waves, drought, wildfires, storms and floods are some of the impact of climate change, which are now irreversible, and scientists say without action, worse is coming.
Currently, nearly 3.5 billion people are highly vulnerable to climate impacts.
and this is projected to increase from 50% to 75% by the end of the century. In a new report authored by hundreds of the world's top climate scientists, the window of opportunity for action is brief and rapidly closing. And in the words of UN Secretary-General, delay is death.
There is no kind way to put it. The 1.5-degree goal is on life support. It is in intensive care.
In addition to these concerns, the report stated that if warming reaches 4 degrees Celsius, half of all plants and animals will be threatened with extinction. Many coastal communities most vulnerable to climate change due to rising sea levels could disappear in a few decades.
Our houses, even the central mosque of the community, everything has been washed away. If you go down to the other side now, after about 4 or 5 strolls.
But to deal with this climate crisis, which scientists say could affect the existence of mankind, investment in adaptation measures, among other strategies, experts say need to be put in place to reduce carbon footprint and preserve this planet for everyone.
People need to be conscious, people need to be aware. So where is my food waste going to? So if I know that my food waste goes to the dump site, it causes methane, gas, and all of that. So why should I still contribute to, the crisis, the climate crisis?
Stop extracting more coal, more gas, more oil, and burning these resources, because this is what is taking up the space in the atmosphere that can safely be occupied by greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and the rest.
While the science and solutions are clear on how to combat climate change, even as the world tries to move away from fossil fuels and cut down carbon emissions by 2050, it is also believed that investing in education, health systems, and social justice could help people cope with the impacts of rising temperatures if we are to guarantee a lifeline for the next generation. Esther Mokwariola, TVC News, Lagos.